Their parents went through who knows how much suffering before they brought them to birth. How could you serve them as fruits when they are less than 3 days old? Clear Breeze said. Honestly, they were formed on a tree. Rubbish. Rubbish, said the elder. How can people grow on trees? Take them away. This is blasphemy. When the young lads saw that he absolutely refused to eat them, they had no choice but to take the tray back to their own room. The fruit, you see, is peculiar. If it is kept too long, it will become stiff and inedible. So, when the two of them reached their room, they each took one of the fruits and began to eat them, sitting on the edge of their beds. Alas, now this is what has to happen. That chamber of theirs, you see, was immediately adjacent to the kitchen. Joined, in fact, by a common wall. Even the whispered words from one room could be heard in the other, and 8 Rules was busily cooking rice in the kitchen. All that talk, moments before, about taking the golden mallet and the elixir tray had already caught his attention. Then, when he heard how the Tang monk could not recognize ginseng fruits that were served him, and how they had to be eaten by the young lads in their own room, he could not stop his mouth watering, and said to himself, "How can I try one myself?" Since he himself was reluctant to do anything, he decided to wait for Pilgrim's arrival so that they could plan something together. Completely distracted by now from tending the fire in the stove, he kept sticking his head out of the door to watch for Pilgrim. In a little while, he saw Pilgrim arrive, leading the horse. Having tied the horse to a locust tree, Pilgrim started to walk toward the rear, when Idiot waved to him madly with his hands, crying, "Come this way! Come this way!" Pilgrim turned around and went to the door of the kitchen, saying, "Idiot, why are you yelling? Not enough rice, perhaps? Let the old monk have his fill first, and we can beg more rice from some big household along our way. Come in," said 8 Rules. "This has nothing to do with the amount of rice we have. There's a treasure in this Taoist temple. Did you know that?" "What kind of treasure?" asked Pilgrim. "I can tell you," said 8 Rules with a laugh. "But you have never seen it. I can put it before you, but you won't recognize it." "You must be joking, idiot," said Pilgrim. 500 years ago, when I, Old Monkey, searched for the way of immortality, I went all the way to the corner of the ocean and the edge of the sky. What can there be that I have never seen?" "Elder brother," said 8 Rules, "have you ever seen the ginseng fruit?" Somewhat startled, Pilgrim said, "That I really have never seen. But I have heard that ginseng fruit is the grass of the reverted cinnabar. When a man eats it, his life will be prolonged. But where can one get a hold of it?" "They have it here," said 8 Rules. The 2 lads brought 2 of these fruits for Master to eat, but that old monk could not recognize them for what they were. He said that they were infants not yet 3 days old, and dared not eat them. The lads themselves were quite disobliging. If Master would not eat, they should have given them to us. Instead, they hid them from us. Just now in the room next door, each had a fruit to himself and finished it with great relish. I got so excited that I was drooling, wondering how I could have a taste of this fruit. I know you are quite tricky. How about going to their garden and stealing a few for us to have a taste of them?" "That's easy," said Pilgrim. "Old Monkey will go, and they will be at the reach of his hands." He turned quickly and began to walk to the front. 8 Rules caught hold of him and said, "Elder brother, I heard them talking in the room, and they mentioned something about using a gold mallet to knock down the fruits. You must do it properly, and without being detected." I know," exclaimed Pilgrim. "Our great sage used the magic of body concealment and stole into the Taoist chamber." The 2 Taoist lads, you see, were not in the room, for they had gone back to the main hall to speak to the Tang monk after they had finished eating the fruits. Pilgrim looked everywhere for the gold mallet, and discovered a stick of red gold hanging on the window pane. It was about 2 feet long and as thick as a finger. At the lower end there was a knob about the size of a clove of garlic, while the upper end had a hole through which a green woolen thread was fastened. he said to himself. This must be the thing called the gold mallet. Taking it down, he left the Taoist chamber, went to the rear, and pushed through a double-leaf door to have a look. Ah, it was a garden. You see. Vermilion fences and carved railings. Artificial hills ruggedly built. Strange flowers rival the sun in brightness. Bamboos match well the clear sky in blueness. Beyond the flowing cup pavilion, one curvate band of willows like mists outspread. Before the moon-gazing terrace, bands of choice pines like spilled indigo, shining red. Pomegranates with brocade-like sacks, fresh, tender green. Grass by the ornamental stools, luxuriant blue. Sand orchids like jade, limpid and smooth. The water in the brook. The kasha glows with the wutong by the golden well. The locust trees stand near the red fences and marble steps. Some red and some white, peaches with 1,000 leaves. Some fragrant and some yellow, chrysanthemums of late fall. The rush flower supports complement the peony pavilion. The hibiscus terrace connects with the peony plot. There are countless princely bamboos that mock the frost, and noble pines that defy the snow. There are, moreover, crane hamlets and deer homes. The square pool and the round pond. The stream spills chips of jade. The ground sprouts mounds of gold. The winter wind cracks and whitens the plum blossoms. A touch of spring breaks open the begonias red. Truly it may be called the best fairyland on earth. The finest floral sight of the West. Pilgrim could not take his eyes off this marvelous place. He came upon another door that he pushed open and found inside a vegetable garden, planted with the herbs of all 4 seasons. Spinach, celery, mare's tail, beet, ginger, and seaweed. Bamboo shoot, melon, squash, and watercress. Chive, garlic, coriander, leek, and scallion. Hollow water lotus, young celery, and bitter sue. The gourd and the eggplant that must be trimmed. Green turnip, white turnip, and taro deep in the earth. Red spinach, green cabbage, and purple mustard plant. Pilgrim smiled to himself and said, "So he's a Taoist who eats his homegrown food." He walked past the vegetable garden and found another door, which he pushed open also. Ah, there was a huge tree right in the middle of the garden, with long, healthy branches and luxuriant green leaves that somewhat resembled those of the plantain. Soaring straight up, the tree was over 1,000 feet tall, and its base must have measured 60 or 70 feet around. Leaning on the tree, Pilgrim looked up and found one ginseng fruit sticking out on one of the branches pointing southward. It certainly had the appearance of an infant with a tail like peduncle. Look at it dangling from the end of the branch, with limbs moving wildly and head bobbing madly. It seemed to make sounds as it swung in the breeze. Filled with admiration and delight, Pilgrim said to himself, "What a marvelous thing! It's rarely seen. It's rarely seen." With a swish, he vaulted up the tree. The monkey, you see, was an expert in climbing trees and stealing fruits. He took the gold mallet and struck lightly at the fruit, which dropped at once from the branch. Pilgrim leapt down after it, but the fruit was nowhere to be seen. Though he searched for it all over the grass, there was not a trace of it. "Strange, strange," said Pilgrim. "I suppose it could walk with its legs, but even so, it could hardly have jumped across the wall. I know. It must be the local spirit of this garden who will not allow me to steal the fruit. He must have taken it." Making the magic sign and reciting a spell that began with the letter Om, he summoned the local spirit of the garden, who came bowing to Pilgrim and said, "Great sage, what sort of instructions do you have for this humble deity?" "Don't you know?" said Pilgrim. "That old monkey happens to be the world's most famous thief. When I stole the immortal peaches, the imperial wine, and the efficacious pills that year, there was no one brave enough to share the spoils with me. How is it, therefore, when I steal just one of their fruits today, that you have the gall to snatch away the prime portion?" Since these fruits are formed on a tree, I suppose even the fowls of the air may partake of them. What's wrong with my eating one of them? How dare you grab it the moment I knock it down? Great sage, said the local spirit. You have made a mistake in blaming me. This treasure is something that belongs to an earthbound immortal, whereas I am only a ghost immortal. Would I dare take it? I don't even have the good fortune to smell it. If you hadn't snatched it, said Pilgrim, why did it disappear the moment it fell? You may know only about its power to prolong life, great sage, said the local spirit. But you don't know its background. What do you mean by background? Said Pilgrim. This treasure, said the local spirit, will bloom only once in 3,000 years. It will bear fruit after another 3,000 years. And the fruit won't ripen for yet another 3,000 years. All in all, one must wait for almost 10,000 years before there are 30 of these fruits. A person lucky enough to smell it once will live for 360 years. If he eats one, he will live for 47,000 years. However, the fruit is resistant to the 5 phases. What do you mean by resistant to the 5 phases? Asked Pilgrim. The local spirit replied,